Well, believe it or not, we are going to finish the first chapter of Revelation today, I think. We're in Revelations, the first chapter, verse number 19. And we're talking about John and how Jesus is speaking to John. And if you didn't catch the other videos of this week, go back and listen to them. You know what? They will absolutely bless you. When you understand the assurance that Jesus is bringing to John as he begins to bring him this powerful revelation, it's amazing. So verse number 19, this is what it says: therefore write the things which you have seen, and the things which are, and the things which will take place after these things. Now, what is Jesus telling John to do? He's telling John to write down the revelation. You see, it's very important that John writes this down, because this is something that needs to be passed down, not only to the 7 churches of Asia, but this is something that needs to be written down so that it can be passed down to all the people, all the believers, from that time on to this very day that we're living in. You see, this book is vitally important to your spiritual development. In fact, we talked earlier about how this book has a blessing that if you would read it, do it, and read it, receive it, and do it, that it would bless you. This is a book of blessing. It's not a book of difficulty. It's a book of blessing. And so Jesus is speaking to John, and he's saying, John, you've got to write this down, because you know what? You're going to remember this, but other people need to know about this after you're gone. John lived, I think it was another 5 or 6 years after the revelation was given. But this is something that needed to be passed on. You know what? Let me just say something to you, and this might get me in trouble, but this is something that needs to be preached in our churches. We need to not be afraid of the book of Revelation, because there's such an assurance in this book. There's such an assurance for those of us who are going through the difficulties of the end times. That assurance is priceless. So Jesus says to John, write this down. And then he says, write down what you have seen. In other words, what you've seen in this vision. But he says not only that, but write down the things that are. In other words, write down the situation that you're in right now. You see, when John writes these 7 churches, the letters to the 7 churches, he's talking about a church right now. He's talking about a church that was there right at his present. Do you understand? Now, he's also talking about a church that's going to be in the future. I believe the 7 churches are representative of 7 types of churches today. Do you understand? So Jesus says, John, write what you see. John's going to see Jesus writing the letters to the 7 churches. He's going to see much more of that throughout the book of Revelation. But John's also going to write for the present. How many of you know that all 7 of these churches were present? They were there right then. But John's also writing into the future. He's writing into a time, and it says here that the things which will take place after these things. In other words, the future. John is seeing into the future, and he's not just seeing into the future about the events of the apocalypse, of the second coming of Christ, or the end of the age. He's seeing the churches that are here right now today, the 7 types of churches that are in existence right now today. And I believe that Jesus is saying the same things to each one of these types of churches. And so this is going to be interesting. You know, next week, Monday, we will start with the church at Ephesus. An amazing, amazing study. But do you understand that John is writing what he sees? And he's writing about the present places. But he's also writing about something that's going to happen in the future. And then in verse number 20, John begins to talk, and he says, or Jesus begins to talk, or continues to talk, As for the mystery of the seven stars, Jesus is going to explain two things here. He's going to explain the mystery of the seven stars, which I saw in his right hand, and the seven golden lampstands. What's he going to do? Jesus is explaining something that John needs to understand. He's going to explain the seven stars, and he's going to explain the seven golden lampstands. Now, he doesn't explain them in great detail, but he tells us what they are. Now, he says the seven stars are the angels of the seven churches. Now, I realize and understand that this may get me into a whole lot of trouble. Because some people have taught this, that they are actually the seven pastors of the seven churches. But if you study the seven churches, you'll find out that there's more than one pastor in each one of these churches. These churches are locales, but there are many churches in the area of Ephesus. There are many churches in the area of Thyatira. There are many churches in the area of Sardis and so on and so forth. So he's not writing to just one person who oversees the churches. You know, I've heard pastors say, I am the pastor of this town, and all other pastors need to listen to me. You know what? That's hogwash. You know, it's something that's not very effective. It's not effective to wash hogs, okay? Because they get dirty. Jesus is talking about seven angels. That's what the literal translation of this is. He's talking about seven angels, and each one of these angels is over a regional area in which these churches abide in. Now, what about the seven golden lampstands? We've already talked about that. The seven lampstands are the seven churches. They are the lampstands. They are the place where light is emitted from. They are the place that illuminates the areas that they're in. So my time is up for today. I want you to join us next week as we begin to look at the seven churches of Asia Minor. Thank you for watching. God bless you.